Hello, and welcome to Ms. PM Reads Christian Content, where we are continuing in Abscond by GG Wagner. And in our last video, Lyzee's still on the bus. She's talking with her friend. Well, actually, they make a stop at Pigeon Forge and they unload for a little while. And she kind of hangs out with this older lady, Novella, and then they get ready to get back on the bus. And this is called The Wait. Lyzee was startled awake by a sudden vibration coming from somewhere beneath her, the persistent pulsing drawing her into consciousness. Trying to sit up, she noticed a dull pain coursing through her entire body. A reflection stared at her, dark circles under red sunken eyes, skin so pale it glowed. Her eyes closed. She fought to reopen them, but was afraid of the torment waiting for her. Succumbing to the irresistible, Lyzee gave in, and all went black. Lyzee, come on now. Sit yourself up and drink this soup, Novella said. What? Where am I? Lyzee asked. Lyzee's eyes darted around the room, not recognizing anything. She couldn't remember anything either. How many times do we have to do this? Novella asked. Lyzee remembered a hand pushing a blue pill toward her. Looking down at her water-soaked shirt, she shook her head desperately, trying to clear the cobwebs. We're not having any luck getting any takers, you looking this away. You need to eat, you hear? Novella said. Lyzee tried to sit up, the pounding in her head causing her eyes to screw closed in pain. She attempted to lift her hand to hold her head, but found she was restrained by a pair of handcuffs. Hey, what's this? Well, dear, we couldn't have you hurting yourself, Novella said. Get these off me. The door flung open and another, even older lady stood in the doorway. She was almost a carbon copy of Novella, even down to the perfectly manicured fingernails. Lyzee felt hopeful until the woman bellowed into the room, her voice gruff and unkind. Land sakes, what is all this commotion up here? The woman demanded. Now, Mommy, don't you worry none. I got things under control, Novella stammered. Lyzee grew quiet, her senses heightened. There was ringing in her ears and a weightless sensation filled her body. Bits and pieces of the past 24 hours flashed in her mind. There was Novella and her mother Opal, getting her into an SUV and then later into this old house. Lyzee looked around the room and thought that must be where she was. It was hard to think straight, but she knew that Novella and Opal came in regularly to force a pill down her throat. Remembering sent panic coursing through her veins, and she pleaded, "Why are you doing this?" Opal moved closer to the bed and leaned down, her silhouetted form shapeless. Lyzee noticed rosy-colored blush painted on the skin, resembling an old leather shoe, and her lips sunk around toothless gums. She brought up a perfectly manicured knobby finger, shaking it in Lyzee's face. You're just spoiled. You just do your part now, you hear? Lyzee swallowed hard, staring past the hand. Novella stood in her line of vision now. The transformation from sweet and frumpy to malicious and aggressive had been accomplished by a simple change of clothes. Her eye was drawn to the disturbing disproportionate frame standing before her. Spindly legs, accentuated by tight-fitting jeans, were left to support a rather plump torso, which outweighed Lyzee by at least 30 pounds or more. She had to get out of there, she thought. There had to be something she could do. Voicing her emphatic plea, Lyzee tried to soften her eyes. This restraint is not necessary. Lyzee watched as Novella considered her request and crossed the room, jerking the blanket from Lizzie's shaking body. She tossed it to Opal, who shook it with a vengeance. Before Lyzee knew what was happening, her head slammed against the headboard as the pillow was jerked out from under her. Tensing as Novella's cold, wrinkly fingers brushed against her skin as she patted the sheet all around her. "We can't be none too careful now, but it looks like you was wrong, Mommy." Mommy is Opal, Novella's mom, I guess. "There ain't one of them pills under here," Novella said. "All right, then. Don't you make me regret this, you hear?" Lyzee was silent, watching Novella struggle with the handcuffs. Her face was getting closer as she tried to fit the key in the tiny lock. The smell of mothballs lingered on her sweater, and hot halitosis breath, like rotted fish, made Lyzee grimace, and she turned her head away. Her wrists were stiff and bruised, but determined not to react, she reached for the cup of soup, drinking it in one noisy gulp. The chair in front of the blacked out window creaked steadily as Opal rocked back and forth, her hands steepled beneath her chin and her beady eyes locked on Lyzee. A thought struck Lyzee. What if she just got up and ran? Neither Novella nor Opal would be able to catch her. She tried to stand, but her legs were too weak, and she crumpled in front of the bed. When she looked up, Opal stood towering above her, holding the tip end of a flashlight only inches from Lyzee's face. The tenacious expression covering Opal's face told Lyzee she was ready for a fight, and Lyzee cowered. What Lyzee had thought was merely a flashlight sizzled and sparked, illuminating the evilness of Opal's features. Lyzee turned away, hiding her face in the mattress while she fought back tears. A defeated Lyzee crawled back onto the bed and covered herself with the sheet. "Look here, little girl." Opal's nostrils flared as she spoke. "I'll light you up with this here taser if you even think about getting out of here. You hear?" Novella opened the door, interrupting Opal's tirade. Lyzee turned her face toward the wall, unable to stop the stream of flowing tears. She heard a tab ripped from a can, followed by an immediate fizz, and then a bag rustled, filling the air with a faint smell of peanut butter. "Come on now, Lyzee. You turn yourself round here," Novella coaxed. "You be a good girl and take your pills so me and Opal can get on out of here." Lyzee sat up obediently, still traumatized by seeing the taser. "I'm really tired," Lyzee began to explain. "I'm not going to try anything, so I don't need to take that pill." "We ain't asking," Opal said. She didn't know how long she'd been asleep. Lyzee tried to sit up, but her head throbbed and her eyelids were heavy. But she heard voices coming through the wall. She fought to grasp the words, patting her face, willing herself to stay awake. Were they talking about her? "Should we call them boys to come get her tonight?" Opal asked. "No, not yet. We got to make sure she's hooked on them pills first. I got a bit of a soft spot for this, and she's got to get rid of them inhibitions. It'll make things go easy like," Novella said. Overcome by the increasing fog, Lyzee struggled to make sense of everything. With the ringing in her ears getting louder, it was impossible to follow the conversation. Without warning, her eyes fell shut and she drifted into a restless sleep. When she awoke, the room was pitch black. Not sure if her eyes were actually open, she held her hand in front of her face, barely making out its form. She rubbed her wrists, the pain almost unbearable, but at least they were free. Holding her breath, she listened to the silence, her mind feeling clearer. A crack of light appeared suddenly under the door, and a floorboard squeaked on the other side. The scraping of metal in the lock mechanism provided a warning, and Lyzee knew it was only a matter of time. Trying to calm herself, she melted into the pillow, rendering herself listless. Sensing the flood of light in the room, she controlled her breathing with slow, shallow breaths. Her pulse thumped against cold, skinny fingers, pressing gently into her neck. Sharp, pointy nails, she guessed, were Novella's, dug into each side of her scalp, lifting her head. Her taste buds were assaulted by the bitterness of those fingers as a pill was shoved onto her tongue. Lyzee stirred as if from a catatonic state, ready to put her plan into action. She had practiced maneuvering her tongue to hide the pill and hoped it worked. Novella stared down at her, and Lyzee flailed her arms belligerently while she slurred her words. Hey, what's that for? Just drink this, Novella commanded. I'm leaving a sandwich. Eat up, you hear? Lyzee took the water, careful to keep her tongue clamped securely over the pill. She mumbled incoherently, mimicking the disgusting behaviors she learned from her mom, and even managing enough saliva to add some drool to her performance. She just wanted Novella to leave her alone. The aftertaste of the dissolving pill was making her nearly gag. Her eyes eager, waiting for the door to close, she plopped it into the glass. The disintegrating pill turned the water blue. Oh no, she murmured. Her head whipped from side to side, looking back at the glass, then at the brown shag carpet. She poured the blue liquid slowly into a plush spot beneath the bed, allowing the evidence to be soaked up. Leaning back, she covered her face with her hands, tried to focus her mind. The sluggishness of her brain was wearing off with each pill she averted, and her thoughts were more ordered. Sitting upright, her eyes flashed open. Before the handcuffs, she had been tethered by a stretchy band, allowing her to lay on her stomach. Dropping her arm behind the bed, she began to pat frantically, wincing as her knuckles scraped a board. Ignoring the stinging sensation, her hand explored in all directions, landing on a smooth, cold object. Optimism replacing the hopelessness in that second, she smiled. She brought the phone up from its hiding place, then, letting it rest on her chest, squeezed her eyes shut and whispered a thank you into the darkness. Her fingers tapped the screen as silent tears splattered onto the pillowcase. She hit send. Waiting for Gwen's response, a giddiness rose up when she saw the animated dots appear. Where are you? Staring at the phone, her smile faded as fast as it had appeared. She squeezed her temples in an attempt to force her brain to work. Her arms landed limply on her knees in defeat. I have no idea. And that is the end of that section. So my instinct was right. That Novella, that sweet little old lady on the bus, was not to be trusted. And Lyzee has unfortunately gotten herself into a very messy situation. So we're going to have to keep reading and find out how she gets out of it. At least I assume she does. All right, you guys. I hope you have a blessed day. And I will see you next time.